So we're all at the hospital, and every single family member is there. Even family members that live far away and stuff. Everyone is there, and I just realized as a kid, um, how important family is, and how much they love my dad. And so everybody's huddled around, his bed or waiting outside the waiting room. They think they're going to lose their brother, and early on. And so everyone's getting together, everybody's praying, everybody's kind of joining in, encouraging each other, there for each other, and just kind of locking arms with one another. And we're gonna get this, we're gonna get through this together as a family. And so at that moment when we eventually went home, I remember with my mom praying every single night for my dad's healing, for my dad's miraculous healing, that he would not die, that he would live, that he would go forward, that God would give him a second chance at life. And that right there taught me a lot as a kid, that there's someone greater than yourself. There's somewhere you could turn to no matter what's happening in life. You got somewhere where you could turn to. Praying with my mother during that time, that uncertain time in my life, kind of just gave a glimpse of hope, and I think that would be something that would always be there and remind me of something. It's almost like a bookmark in a book. You kind of put the bookmark there, you save your place, and so that kind of sparked something early on that obviously I wasn't going to be not believe in God. There was obviously a God out there. And so to me, that was very encouraging and peaceful, because it was very calming at home, praying with my mom, holding my mom's hand and laying in her bed and praying for my dad. And also, it's like my mom taught me how to pray. It was like, what's praying? Just talk to the Creator. And so that was really interesting, because I think I could trace that. I could always turn back to that memory even today. So after all the praying, my dad did pull through from that traumatic accident, and really it was a miracle, because he wasn't supposed to live. And so he ended up in a full body cast, and they brought home a special bed. And over the years of training and rehabilitating, my dad, one thing about my dad is he's very determined. And he was like, I'm going to get back on my feet, And within a few years, little by little, he started walking and getting better and better. And, later on, you couldn't even tell that he was in any kind of accident like that. Of course, he had like a Frankenstein shoe that kind of like was a little bit bigger, because it's like, I don't know if his legs didn't grow right or something. And I guess that's kind of a funny memory. But yeah, he pulled through, man. He made it through. My dad's all healed up now, but it changes everything, because whereas before you had two parents working all the time, there's that constant income. But now my dad can't work because he's disabled. My mom has to take care of my dad, so she can't really work. So we have a whole bunch of years where we're just kind of surviving. We're almost like just kind of drifting back and forth. And so we moved around a lot. We didn't stay in a house for a very long time. It was like, we'd live somewhere for a year, and then we moved somewhere. We went somewhere for a year, we moved somewhere. And I was like in and out of school. And unfortunately, this was like in high school. So this really kind of it made it challenging to even graduate from high school. So moving around so much, I was in and out of multiple high schools. I think probably 4 or 5 different high schools, when you're really only supposed to go to one for all those years. And so being the brand new kid on the block and having to make friends and trying to reconnect, I learned how to make friends right away. But that's probably the positive, but the negative, it was hard to say goodbye. And so I remember over time, I kind of got calloused. And when we would leave, we move out and move to another location and leave school. I remember I got to a point where I didn't even tell anyone bye. I just like one moment I was at school, the next day I wasn't there and I was gone. Not saying goodbye is, trying to avoid the pain, because, you spent that whole year investing in friends, and maybe, maybe I had a girlfriend or something, or I got real close to a bud, and we skated together, we hung out together. But having to say goodbye, it's just hard. And so the easiest way to avoid the pain was to just disappear. I think a lot of people today, that's how they avoid pain. They just disappear, and they don't have to deal with it. But eventually you do have to deal with it. When you grow up, you have to deal with that pain. Having to deal with that pain, I was looking at different things to numb that pain. And so I turned to skateboarding, and just skated hard and was on it every single day. Of course, that was during the times we were experimenting with drugs and the party scene. So turning to that lifestyle was kind of like a numbing agent to try to avoid pain. But, there was years of pain that had been kind of building up through my dad's injury and through moving around a bunch and, having to deal with being a teenager and dealing with all that kind of stuff. So that was how I numbed it. That's how I kind of got away from everything, was to kind of use that as a coping mechanism. So in high school, I was attracted to the people that were kind of like, the rockers and the skaters and the partiers and kind of the outcasts. They're always the ones at lunchtime that kind of were in a corner somewhere and like had a bunch of earrings and colored hair and ripped jeans and all that. And so I always kind of ended up in that group. It was like a magnet. So I ended up in that group. And so of course that took me into the party scene more, because I knew how to look for those types of people wherever I went. And so that kind of grouped me into like a crew or a group of people. In high school, I veered toward the rebels, and the rebels, they kind of have the leather jackets and the jeans and the Harley Davidson this, and so I think I was drawn to them because they kind of had that I don't care about life attitude. And so the automatic thing was to kind of go in that direction. We wanted to be James Dean, we wanted to look like Elvis Presley, we wanted to look like Marlon Brando. Like, we were literally trying to be a rebel without a cause. I think I had always been kind of a rebel without a cause inside, and I think the outside was starting to catch up with the inside. Yeah, so in high school, there was a guy that reached out to me. His name's Leo. It's kind of funny because not that we meant it to be that way, but my middle son's name is Leo also. But yeah, Leo kind of reached out to me and kind of brought me into their group. And they were all rebels, and they were a part of a crew. The crew was called the Drifters. And so we all wore our leather jackets. We all had our name on the back, and we were had through these club type, rave type parties, and really we're just trying to make a name for ourselves, and just trying to, I don't know, we're rebelling against the system, I guess, using house music and techno music to do it. I don't know if we're starting a revolutionary or not, but we just love to dance and hang out with each other. It's kind of like a brotherhood for a while. And we drifted, from house to house and from party to party. So hence the term, drifters. Well, Leo, he was straight out of a movie. He could have been the Hispanic version of James Dean. He kind of had that look about him, but he was kind of soft-spoken too, and he was super friendly too at the same time. But then he had like this toughness about him, and this kind of like welcoming about him as well. And he ended up being one of my best buds, and we're still friends even today. But if it weren't for him, I don't know that I would have been accepted into that group of friends that I hung out with for so many years. And so, yeah, man, he was just like, he just had that look. He had the perfect sideburns, the perfect hair, the perfect leather jacket, the perfect shoes, good looking dude. Everybody loved him. That was my friend. Well, being a rebel, it took some commitment because you couldn't just like walk into this style. It took hard work. You had to have the right jacket and the right jeans. We went to all these different thrift stores. I felt like we were at thrift stores like almost every other day, trying to find the perfect button-up shirt and the perfect pants and the perfect jeans. And it couldn't be too new, but they had just, man, it was a lot of commitment, man. It was a lot of work to put on that facade, to wear that outfit, to look the part, have the right haircut. We had a guy that was in our drifter crew that it was kind of ironic that he was he took hair classes or something, and so he did all our haircuts for us, man. And so we all had pompadours, and well, I could never get sideburns, but most of my friends have. I think I just let this grow down long, and I just kind of like made it look like a sideburn. But that was kind of what we did to belong. With the drifters, we were outcasts, and what we loved to do was like lock arms with other similar type crews. There was another crew, they were called the Stray Cats. That's kind of funny because they were like rebels also. But we would find other people kind of like-minded in that way and kind of like team up in order to throw these venues. And we were trying to make money. I don't know that we were always successful there though. I don't remember making any money. I think we spent more money than we make anything. But we made friends, and we found stuff to do. And so that's basically what we did for many years. In order to have a good turnout on your venue, you had to have a good flyer. And, remember, this is like, the internet's just barely going. There's not a lot of stuff. So to produce a full-colored graphic, that was quality, that was on quality paper, that looked great, I don't even know how we cut and pasted stuff back then, but we found people to do it for us, and a lot of the print shops would do it also. And then it had to be like a really glossy, hard stock. So when you get the flyer, you can even smell it. You're like, man, this smells like a good quality flyer. It's not like a piece of paper, like a copy of something. It's like full color, full graphic. In the drifters, some of the DJs, what they were playing during that time was, it was a little bit of techno, but techno was starting to change, and it started to go into trance. But then it totally was taken over by house music. And so we had like Miranda, we had like Robin S, and groups like that were becoming super popular, and they were even getting a lot of radio play. And so house music was more laid back, I guess, and easier to dance to, not as fast-paced as some of the harder, more progressive trance or techno music. So things started to change from there. So what started happening with the drifters, and I think this happened with a lot of party crews in the 90s, is that because they weren't really a gang or anything, they were more about having parties. And so what happened is, with the popularity of a crew, then you have other gangs that want to test your crew. And so what was happening with a lot of party crews is they were becoming gangs, because they were gangs were testing them, and they were retaliating. They were going back and forth. And this happened, the same thing happened to the tagging crews also. They ended up becoming tag bangers in the 90s. And so that kind of was starting to come towards us. And we started to get like little enemies, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they were maybe someone's girlfriend got stolen or taken from a person. I don't know how it started, but I do know that it started to lean toward that. And I don't want to be a part of that.